So now that we have a server set up and we have our initial configuration done, let's look at installing Active Directory and making this thing an Active Directory domain controller. So remember, the way we find Windows features is the get-windows feature commandlet. And I'm going to pipe this through more because we're looking for a specific one, the Active Directory domain services feature. So it's collecting our data. Should give us our list here in just a second. Okay, there we go. Now what we're looking for is Active Directory Domain Services. And you see we don't have a little X here, which means that it's not actively installed. However, it is available to install. We see that over here. And here we see the name of it is AD-Domain Services. That's what we're going to need to install it. So I'm going to do Control-C and clear my screen. And I'm going to do an install Windows feature AD-domain-services. Now, I'm not going to include management tools because I don't need all of the management tools. All I need is the PowerShell tools. And let's spell services correctly. And the PowerShell tools are going to come across anyway. Without having to do the include management features. So this installation won't take long. We're already at 89%, 92%. And then we'll look at some of our commandlets. Now remember, when you do this, you install the domain service role, but this doesn't make it a domain controller. That's going to be a separate option. When you're in the GUI, you'll have to go to the post-configure or post-installation configuration, but here we don't have that. Now we'll see here the result success true, restart needed, no, exit code, we exited with a success. Feature results is Active Directory Domain Services. Now let's take a look at our commandlets. So let's do a get command for the module Active Directory. And you'll see we have a whole bunch of Active Directory commandlets available to us now. So we need to create a new forest, and we need to create a new domain within that new forest. So our commandlet for that is install-adds forest. And we'll see in the get command here that's the install ADD forest is in the ADDS deployment source. So it's not in your standard Active Directory modules. So if you look for those, you'll have a hard time finding it. In fact, let's look at the other ones we have available to us. Let's do get-command. Let's set our verb to install. And we're looking specifically for things from the ADDS deployment. And here we're going to see install ADDS domain, ADDS domain controller, ADDS forest. So the ADDS forest will create a new forest, new domain. ADDS domain is going to create a new domain under an existing ADDS forest. And ADDS domain controller will add a new domain to an existing domain inside an existing forest. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Now, what we need to do is we need to install a new ADDS forest. So let's do get help for install ADDS forest. We'll pipe that to more, and we'll look at some of our options here. Oh, it would probably help if I spelled forest correctly. No wonder that wasn't behaving correctly. F-O-R-E-S-T. There we go. Hey, that comes up a whole lot faster when you have it correctly. All right, so things that we're going to need to set. We're going to install the ADDS forest. We're going to set the domain name. We're going to need to set a safe mode administrator password, but notice that's going to require a secure string. So we're actually we'll talk a little bit later on about how to set a secure string, but for the moment we're going to leave that out and we're going to let it prompt us and we're going to put that in. So we can set database path, we can set our DNS delegation credentials, we can set domain modes. Anything we don't set is going to go to default. We do need to make sure that we install DNS. So we'll go ahead and set that as an option, and then we'll go ahead and tell it to create the DNS delegation. Now, here's going to be our command. So it's going to be install -adds forest. We're going to set the domain name, and we're just going to do example.local. And then we're going to install DNS. Now, doing that install DNS should have it automatically do the zone delegation for us. So we're going to hit enter, and we're going to discover that I can't type domain name correctly. Fixing that, we're going to hit enter, and so it's going to ask for our safe mode administrator password. This is our Active Directory restore mode password. So I'm going to just set a default password, and we're going to confirm it. And then the target server will be configured as a domain controller and restarted when this operation is complete. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, actually we do. Now, this is going to take a little while. This part here is actually going to go fairly quickly. It'll go through all of our ADDS configuration, and then it's going to automatically reboot the computer. And when it goes to reboot, it's going to come up and it's going to say that it's applying the configuration settings. And that's going to take a few minutes. So, rather than letting this video just run while we're doing all of that, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. We're going to let this do all of its work in the background, and once it comes up and we're done with the configuration, then I'll resume the video and we'll take a little closer look at what we've accomplished. So now that we are rebooted, we're back to this screen. Press Ctrl-Alt-Delete to unlock. So in VNC, I'm going to hit my Ctrl-Alt-Delete. And now notice we're entering credentials for example /administrator. So we're in the example domain. So we're going to go ahead and log in here. ABCD1234 $, and here we are. Let me go ahead and go to PowerShell. And then I'm going to change directory to my scripts folder, just so that if I do anything, it stays in that scripts folder. Okay. Now we've already kind of taken a look a little bit at our and I just lost my train of thought. At our commands, there we go, for the Active Directory module. But let's take a look a little bit and see what we've accomplished here. Let's issue the command get Windows feature, and I'm going to go ahead and pipe that to more, so it doesn't all go flying by. So it'll take us a second here to collect our data. I've got my server running some other processes in the background, so things are taking a little bit longer. All right, Active Directory Domain Services, we now have an X by that. Also notice that we have an X by our DNS server. Now, we're going to take a closer look at the DNS server more later on, but there is one thing that I want to show you. Get back to here, Control-C. It's not letting me out. There we go, Control-C to get out, clear our screen. So our DNS server is running, and like I said, we'll look at that more in another video later on, but for the moment, remember we are running example.local as our domain. So I'm going to issue the command get DNS server resource record. Yeah, that's a long command, for example.local. And we should see provided I typed everything correctly. Here are all of our resource records for example.local. And so we're going to see our server name 2019 core. We're going to see all of our service resource records. We're going to see pretty much everything that we need. We can also get DNS server zone, and we'll see the zones that we've created, example.local, and then the Microsoft domain controller service.example.local, and then our reverse lookup fields. So we can see that it went ahead and installed DNS and then set up all of our records for us. Now let's go back to some of our commands for Active Directory. So I'm going to do get command module Active Directory, and that's going to be a whole bunch of commands. So let's filter that down to just get. And remember, get commands are normally what lets us explore. We get to find things by using the get commands. So we'll set it to verb get. And again, more than one page, so we'll go ahead and pipe that to more. And here are all of the things that we can use to explore Active Directory or get information out of it. Now I want to look at two of them right now, get AD domain and get AD forest. And this is going to show us our existing domain information. So we'll start with get AD forest. AD forest. There we go. Application partitions are domain naming master, the domains, the mode, Windows Server 2016, which was a default, the name of it, the partition container, the root domain, the schema master, and then the default for site name. And then we can also do the same thing to get AD domain and find information about our domain within that forest. And again, that's going to show us containers, it's going to show us the DNS root, it's going to show us our domain controller, the container, the domain mode, basically all the information, including things like PDC emulator, RID master, our other FSMO or flexible single master operations controllers. Now, since I've only got one domain controller, all of them obviously are going to fall to my only server, 2019 core.example.local. But we can now see that we do have Active Directory up, operational, and we're logged in to our Active Directory domain controller in our brand new domain in our brand new forest.